My Flying Cloud name is He Appears.
Yes.
And I was the first director of Flying Cloud, hired by Ken Webb, the original prominent New England Quaker who founded the Farm and Wilderness Camps. So 1965 was our first summer.
Oh my God, I'm gonna tear up already.
Right.
Go ahead.
And so Reggie was, I think, our youngest camper, or one of our youngest campers. He would probably remember, but he's one of our youngest campers. We had 25 campers that first summer. We had 5 teepees and 5 counselors. We only had 5 staff and 5 teepees of 6 kids and a counselor each. Okay, and he was great. He had, I mean, despite how young he was, he had a lot of enthusiasm for stuff. My younger brother, Rick, whose Flying Cloud name is He Looks to the Stars, and He Looks to the Stars and I were the 2 counselors on a canoe trip that we went to Somerset Reservoir, which was a farm and wilderness regular trip. The camps rotated through Somerset, and so Flying Cloud had its turn, and so He Looks to the Stars and myself, and he was still named Reggie at the time. Oh no, we had named him Buffalo Calf.
Okay.
Somewhere early in the summer. He was there for the whole summer. Some kids only came half the summer, but he was there for the whole summer, right? And so he just had a great attitude, just really amazing attitude. And whatever skills he didn't know, he picked up really quickly. Smart kid. And he just got into the games and so on. So this story comes from the canoe trip on the Somerset Reservoir. And at the southern end of the Somerset Reservoir is a ski mountain called, well, on the Topo Mounts it's called Mount Pisgah, but in Vermont they call it Mount Snow, is the commercial name for where everybody goes to ski.
Yes,
so
we ski
in the
Mount
summertime there's no snow, but at the top of the mountain is a big ski lodge. And around the perimeter of the lodge in those days, in 1965, was a big deck with a railing on it. But it was also a time that I had come from Camp Timberlake as a staff member and a camper before that, and so had my brother. And Camp Timberlake in those days was teaching a lot of Morse code, teaching signaling, so a lot of us learned the basic Morse code. In Morse code, you go letter by letter, right?
Right.
And there's dots and dashes for each letter. So we started teaching the kids at Flying Cloud some of this Morse code things. And in the early days of Flying Cloud, before the Great Leap Backward, which was 1968, in the Great Leap Backward, everything, we did away with flashlights and matches and various things, sort of marks of civilization. But in the early days, it was a little bit more like Camp Timberlake, a primitive version of Timberlake.
Okay.
So we did have flashlights and matches and a few things. But we learned how to signal across distances with a flashlight with a button on it that would do dots and dashes.
Did you have any menus, or you're just hanging out?
We're just hanging out. We belong to those tables over there.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Okay. So, let's see. So we were on a canoe trip, and we decided we had camped a couple of nights there. I think we were there for 4 nights. And somewhere in the middle of that, we decided we would do a hike, and I would take half the kids from the trip. We would canoe down the length of the reservoir and hike up the mountain to the top.
Okay.
And my brother would take the other half of the kids and stay in the campsite that we had. And at night, he would go out into the middle of the lake, and we would hike to the top of the mountain and see if we could signal all the way from the top of the mountain out to the lake. So Buffalo Calf was on my group, right? And we're, I don't know, like 5 kids and me, something like that. And so we hiked to the top of the mountain. We set out our sleeping bags. We're going to sleep up there, and we're looking out over the lake. And Rick and I had devised a kind of a practical joke, okay, on these kids. Buffalo Calf was the perfect person for this. So, but all the kids, we were faking all the kids out. So I told the kids on my trip, I said, you know, he looks at the stars, and the kids down on the lake have a really powerful pair of binoculars. That was another thing that went away with the Great Leap Backward, was the binoculars.
Okay.
But in those days, we had binoculars. I said, you know, you can see a long way with those binoculars. You could see, you know, like a fly on somebody who's all the way across the lake, right? So the kids were like eating this up, and how powerful these binoculars must have been. And we had our own binoculars. And so we got to the top of the mountain, and we're there, and we'd set up our campsite, and then it's getting darker. And it's getting darker, and looking down, you can see the lake down below, but as it gets dark enough, pretty much the lake sort of disappears.
Right.
And it's just the forest and the lake. It all looks dark and black practically, right? So, we're hoping to do this signaling with the flashlights, the Morse code signaling. And so as we're looking out and we're peering into the darkness, and all of a sudden there's this little tiny blip of light that comes from somewhere out there. It's a group of canoes tied together in the middle of the lake with their own flashlight and their binoculars. Right?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so there they are. So we turn our flashlight. It was actually a signal gun. Actually, it was a long thing that you put on your shoulder, and you had a sight on it. You could sight.
Oh,
they
wow.
were probably 2.5, 3 miles away. It was a good little ways. So the two flashlights kind of hone in on each other, and they start the signaling. So the way the signaling goes is after each word, you signal all the letters for one word, and the receiving people are writing down each letter.
Right.
And at the end of the word, you send an R, which is a Roger, which means, okay, I've got the word. Right?
Okay,
So
yes.
at the end of a word, you get a Roger. So Buffalo Calf is leaning over the edge of the thing, and he's the recorder, right, letter by letter, right, and he's leaning over, and we had made a lot of Indian costuming, and Buffalo Calf had made a choker. A lot of us had made a choker, right, which is a set of beads
I know
and bones, right?
exactly
You know
what
they're
a choker
right?
is. Absolutely.
Right? And so he's leaning over the thing.
They're using porcupine quills when I was there.
Yeah, and his might have been out of quill work. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You're right. I think it was. But anyway, he had a choker on, and he just wore it all the time, day and night. Slept with the thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we're leaning over the thing. Buffalo Calf, if you're watching this, I don't know if you'll remember this, but I remember it very well. Old as I am. So he's leaning over, and somebody else is reading the dots and dashes, and he's writing down the things. And so the first word comes in, BUFFALO, and he goes, wow, buffalo, right? That's the first word. He writes it down, right? And the next word is calf. Oh my God, they're signaling to me. And so I'm saying, you know, they got powerful binoculars down there. They can see you pretty well, you know. And it says, Buffalo Calf, your choker is on backwards. And his eyes get all big, right? And he goes, oh my God. He realizes his choker was not on backwards. It was on correctly. And all of a sudden he got the joke, and everybody else did too, right? There's no way. There's no way those binoculars could have seen. But anyway, we had set this up ahead of time.
That is brilliant.
And so we laughed about that for a long time. But he got to be one of our most skillful campers, most, you know, really a leader, really on his own. He was a camper at Buffalo Calf. I don't remember. I think you were probably in Flying Club for 4 or 5 years, and you came back several summers. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh,
And that was
excellent.
just one Buffalo Calf story.
Well, thank you
Okay.
so very much. He appears. You want to wave to
Buffalo
Reggie?
Calf. I hope you enjoyed the story, and it's nice to retell it. It's been a long time.
All right.